One of the most frequent questions I receive is about rediscovering your magic once you've lost it. After battling this problem myself and testing solutions for years, I do believe the perfect remedy for this situation is a visit to Fairy Cassandra.
Hello! Come on in, I'm so happy you're here.
Fairy Cassandra is a friend I've wanted to introduce you to for years now, but the timing never felt right.
Sticky.
Fairies don't typically like their stories told before they've found the happy ending, you know?
But she's invited us to join her today. So get settled in for a little journey through the fairy portal. I made you a latte. For the journey, you asked for a vanilla cardamom. I made the cardamom syrup myself. I hope you love it. Now let's not keep Fairy Cassandra waiting.
If you venture off to Haven Hollow and frolic your way through the gates into the town center, you'll be met with shops and stalls and bustling villagers. But if you journey deeper into the shops, you'll discover fairy portals waiting for you in windows and archways and cozy corners, leading to the fairy realms that keep the Hollow's magic alive. Today, as you venture through the fairy portal at the back of the Very Normal Cafe, you find yourself in the workshop of the Flower Fairies. Each year, this industrious group of fairies is met with the challenge to design a new glowing flower to send out into the world to guide the paths of the weary travelers to the solace of Haven Hollow. Each year's creation is a tad different, always showcasing top-of-the-line designs and innovative concoctions of fairy dust to keep their lights bright. Folks these days just aren't the same as they used to be, so it's important for the fairies to keep the flowers fresh and alluring so that the right people find Haven Hollow when they need it. This year, as you make your way through the portal, you notice one fairy in particular. Fairy Cassandra has been in the flower business for years, always one of the most inventive and creative of the group. She takes her job very seriously. So seriously that a couple years ago, when one of the eldest fairies decided to take an early retirement, Fairy Cassandra was selected to step up as one of the eldest. With fervor in her heart and tingles in her fingertips, she led the group that year with a most elegant flower design. They put flowers out into the world with hopeful intentions, but compared to previous years, the new flower design showed low conversion rates. Her creation had failed, despite the effort. She had failed. And her passion for creation has been on the decline ever since. This year is different, though. You bet it is. Fairy Cassandra has decided to give it her all, to pull from the reserves of magic she holds deep inside and lead the team with grace and success. Cassandra makes her way around the workshop, complimenting here and offering helpful tweaks there. She refills paints when they run low and refuels fairy dust when needed. And as things always do in these types of stories, everything is running smoothly. Which, of course, means conflict is imminent. Because this is a story, and stories must have stakes to keep them interesting and imperfections to make them relatable. And Fairy Cassandra just so happens to be facing high stakes and is also an expert in concealing her many imperfections. Which is why, as she sits down to join in painting new petals, her face remains perfectly neutral, as her insides begin to panic, because the brush stroke she is adding to her petal is horribly, terribly muddy. She gently wipes the petal of paint before it dries. She dips her brush again to try for a pretty red hue. As she swipes and paints and brushes and attempts all the other synonyms you can think of to apply the darn red hue onto the delicate little petal, nothing works. Fairy Cassandra inspects her palette. Every flower fairy has their own palette, you see, and every palette has a perfect dollop of every color needed for creation, mixed with their own unique blend of fairy magic, like a signature of each fairy brushed into every stroke. Fairy Cassandra's unique golden hue used to glisten in each of her color dollops. Now she is left with a faded, burnt, crusty crust on the edges of the palette. Singed, depleted. She should have seen this coming. Her wings have felt heavy and tired for the last little while, and she hasn't felt the same excitement to create every day. She's heard of this happening, the muddy palette thing. It doesn't happen often because the eldest fairies are tasked with helping the flower fairies to manage their color palettes. It's quite the skill to manage all your colors on your own. The eldest fairies lend colors when newer fairies run low, encourage the fairies when the magic dims a bit, you know? Fairy Cassandra is new to managing her own colors without an elder fairy to manage them for her. And of course, if she's out of colors, it also means she has nothing to pull from to refuel the palettes of the other fairies. Fairy Cassandra glances around the workshop, ensuring the other fairies are busy working and not noticing her very big dilemma. Determined to solve her problem without any undue embarrassment, the gossip about her last failure has only recently simmered down. She carries her palette off to the nearby supply closet in the back of the tree stump, taking care to not let the heels of her handcrafted designer slippers click-clack on the floor. Cassandra shoos out the random squirrel trying to stash who knows what inside and locks the door behind her. Cassandra takes a breath in, 2, 3, 4, holds it, 2, 3, and oh my goodness, this is taking too long. She has to think, not breathe. She's never been one for breathing. Bodies are supposed to do that on their own, and it's quite the waste of time to sit in a corner and focus on blowing oxygen in and out. She's a fairy, not a vacuum, and she's determined to convert the most villagers with her flowers this year than any year before. Maybe she doesn't have an eldest fairy for guidance, but perhaps she can figure something out herself. She was entrusted as one of the new eldest, after all. Surely she's capable of something useful. She's never heard of fairies making paints from scratch. They're more of an innate thing flower fairies are created with. But maybe she could start fresh somehow. The eldest fairies always offer paints like offering a sourdough starter, but surely the starter has to start somewhere. Granny Leia makes sourdough. Granny Leia has potions and magic, and surely she'll keep the predicament a secret. Unlike the other fairies, she'll just sneak off to Granny Leia's cottage, get some answers, and hustle back before anybody notices. That'll do it. Cassandra slowly squeaks open the closet door, one round eyeball peeking out to ensure her unnoticed departure from the stump. A group of fairies is walking past, so she grabs a bottle of cleaning spray as an excuse for visiting the closet and nonchalantly exits. Cassandra gives her best impression of a stress-free smile to the group and exhales once they've passed. She hears a faint squeak to her right from the squirrel trying to get back into the supply closet. She sprays him away with the cleaner because there's no time for squirrel problems amidst the rest of the day's drama. Don't worry, she's pretty sure it's just water. The squirrel scampers off one way, and Fairy Cassandra glides the other in true elder fairy elegance and poise. Not a hair out of place, not an emotion permitted to bubble to the surface. Her performance is flawless. Palette tucked away in her satchel, she steps outside the fairy realm into the very normal cafe without a question. She stops at the counter for a quick latte. 4 shots espresso, 1 dewdrop vanilla, a splash of moon milk, extra ice. She let me try hers once, it's pretty good. And fueled with the first electrifying sips of her latte, flutters her wings to lift off on her journey. The caffeine takes her only so far with such a low tank of magic. Her wings flitter to a stop, and she stumbles to the cobblestone street, still glancing to make sure no one has noticed her lack of shimmer. She accepts that her quick journey has turned into a rather long walk, like the humans do. No wonder their shoes are so much uglier than her designer slippers. Fairies were meant for fluttering, not walking. The streets are wet after the recent rain, so Fairy Cassandra maneuvers between the people, leaping over puddles, speckling the pathway. At first, the chorus of village sounds is a little comforting, like she's lost in a sea of organized chaos. But as she furthers her steps, the chaos starts to seep in and bubbles inside, swirling with the panic she's been pushing down. Everywhere she looks are the mortals, the fellow fairy folk, the witches, the pirates, that squirrel. They're all counting on her to keep the village alive with her magic and her flowers. She glides a hand through her hair, smoothing each lock back into place. Desperate to keep it together, she clears a puddle, dodges a toddler, her insides downturned, but her lips are raised in that feigned smile again, because everything is just fine, and she is just fine, and everything's gonna turn out just fine. Cassandra makes it to the outskirts of the town center, some of the chaos calming as the villagers are replaced with the trickle of the winding river. Her slippers skip across the stones to the other side of the water and begin their ascent up the hill to Granny Leia's cottage. Of all the emotions brewing inside what has become an unsettling stomach potion, a little drop of hope simmers up as she nears the top of the hill. She's huffing and puffing at this point in her ascent up the hill, and she deeply breathes in a whiff of that cinnamony cottage air. Granny Leia will help her. Her colors will be restored, her magic renewed, her spark reignited. The hopeful bubbles intensify as she watches the smoke curl from the top of the cottage, freeing its energy into the sky while she waits for Granny Leia to answer the door. The hinges creak open, releasing a cinnamon cloud. As it dissipates, Granny Leia appears in the doorway. On another occasion, Cassandra might take a moment to breathe it in, but there's no time for that today. She has problems to solve and things to create. She follows Granny Leia inside, weaving around the corner, the cat dancing in and out of Granny Leia's steps, a purr from the cat, a welcoming hum from Granny Leia. A timer sounds from somewhere in the kitchen, and Granny Leia flits away to remove something from the oven. Granny Leia sets cinnamon rolls on the cooling rack while Cassandra recounts her dilemmas of the day. She needs her paints unmuddled, and Granny Leia has remedies galore. There's gotta be something to help. Granny Leia hums and haws, adjusts her glasses, and after much consideration, informs Cassandra she can be of no help. See, there's a crossover between her witchy magic and that of the fairies. But seeing as the paints are an inherent type of craft, they must be fully restored by the fairy herself. Even an elder fairy wouldn't be able to help in this situation. General magic can be refueled at the ancient lantern, but again, not suitable for this type of magic. Pixie potion could be a temporary help, but that seems to be hard to find these days. This type of restoration is for Cassandra alone to discover. This painting has been quite the journey, actually. I started it a year ago, maybe. Somewhere along the way, the spark just kind of died. I wasn't enjoying creating it anymore. I was scared to make any more brush strokes because I didn't want to ruin what I had already done. It was a finished painting, but it didn't feel right. It was missing some kind of spark. So I set it aside, and I don't know, that fear just kind of took over or something. The next few paintings that I tried just didn't work out. The spark wasn't there. I was like fighting for my life with every brush stroke. It kind of brought me back a little bit to when I started making these videos. I didn't ever set out to make videos, especially this kind of video. It's turned into its own world and creation, but I've always turned to art as a way of processing life and working through things. The art allowed me to get the feeling onto the canvas, and then writing the stories about whatever was on the canvas helped pull me back into the problem, but in the perspective of someone else. It's easier to see it from the perspective of a fairy. Eventually, I came back to this painting, kind of eased my way in. I like to use glazing as a way to add layers and to continue the painting when I don't know what the next brush stroke is. I got more and more vibrant colors and got a little more confident as time went on. It's like when you're a kid, you create so much artwork, or you go in the backyard and it's like a whole world to explore because there's no fear. You're not programmed with anybody else's fear or expectation. Everything is new information and you're learning and you're experimenting, and it's okay to make a mistake because you're just learning about life. I realized I had kind of fallen back into that, like the fears and the performance and, oh, I need to get this done for a video, instead of focusing on the artwork and processing life and letting it evolve into its own story. It felt so forced. So I think it really helped to experiment. I worked with a bigger canvas, a tiny canvas, new color palettes. Some of you have asked about the donut painting. That's another version of this process that I went through. I needed something completely different. And in true Fairy Cassandra fashion, it seemed that the colors is what was missing from this one. She started coming to life a little bit and I got that spark back. I guess the trick for me was just giving my craft room to breathe, removing the expectations, removing the fear, allowing it to become enjoyable again, remembering when it was enjoyable and what sparked that creativity to begin with. And then Fairy Cassandra just kind of took on a life of her own, like most of the characters do. On that note, back to you, narrator Sam.
Once tingling with the warmth of magic, Fairy Cassandra's color palette is now a lifeless, icy rock in her hand. With a warm cinnamon roll in the other, she trudges slowly down the hill, overrated slippers, desperately attempting to grip the earth with each step. Chaotic energy plummets to the bottom of her stomach as the hopeful embers burning inside her die out.
So her useless shoes are sliding and her knees are kind of bent in that stiff squat you do when you don't want to slide down the hill. You have to kind of bend backwards, okay? There's a technique. You bend backwards so that if you do fall, you fall on your butt. And then you have to do this kind of like clunky step down because now the steps are bigger than normal. And thank heavens no one's around because of the shame of it all.
Now at this point, she's absolutely not prepared to return to the workshop. So she skips back over the river and takes a detour into the peaceful meadow. She doesn't visit the meadow often, though it houses all the fairy flowers that have been created over the years, like a museum of flowers. She's so used to flying right over the field, rushing from task to task, she hasn't visited her flowers up close in quite some time. Fairy Cassandra throws off the dang slippers and finds herself a tree stump for sitting and stewing. The slippers land nearby near a purple snapdragon. Cassandra remembers this particular purple flower. She and the other fairies were playing around with a new mixture of their fairy dust and created an almost iridescent-like combination of colors that made the petals absolutely glow. She situates herself atop the stump and does one of those boring, pointless breaths the previous elder fairy always talked about. In 1, 2, 3, 4. She holds the breath as she's filled with thick lavender that soothes her hollow insides, then watches a golden shimmer swirl in the air as she releases her breath out across the field. She breathes in rhythm with the meadow, a dance with the alchemy in the air, in and out, blending a new swirl of feeling inside her, sorting through each emotion that bubbles up, bringing them to the surface, holding each one for a moment, then releasing it to dissolve in the magic of the meadow. She breathes in the roses nearby that shoot straight to the bottom of her stomach and mix with the agitated crimson energy stuck in there. She sits in her discomfort, holds the breath in her chest, not ready to release it just yet. A swirl of red sparkles dissolve in the air as she eventually exhales. She inhales a bit of bluebells. Recalling the year she failed her flower creation, melancholy simmers in her stomach potion, a splash of sadness, a drop of shame. She notices some flowers across the way from her earliest years as a flower fairy.
Their colors now faded after all this time in the sun. She figures there's no harm in adding a bit of her palette to the petals. The sun sparkles on her gentle strokes, revealing the layers of magic still mixed in the muddied colors, and she's pleasantly impressed with how elegant the brown flowers turn out, stepping back to watch them glisten. Fairy Cassandra makes her way back to the flower workshop and returns to painting flowers with her limited palette. She finds her palette collaborates wonderfully with those of the autumn fairies. Together they craft chocolate sunflowers, burgundy dahlias, a brown lotus, a whole bouquet of flowers she has never considered before with her more vibrant colors. And where she expected gossip about her limited colors, she received a bit of commiseration from fellow elder fairies instead. Apparently she isn't the only one who spent some time panicking in supply closets. The more she paints, the more beauty she finds buried in the mud. And over time, she clears up enough of the muddied colors to reveal a faint golden hue, slowly gaining some vibrancy as she falls into the rhythm of creation again. To help the flower fairies design their next flower, watch this video next.